It is one of the most notorious uses of horror for political purposes in the modern era. A monster that gave its name to a violent militia of wizards and zombies who used that reputation to terrorize an entire nation. It is the story of the Haitian militia, Tonton Macoute. Hi, and welcome to All That Is Dark, where we take an intellectual dive into the darker corners of human culture and psychology. Originally, the name Tonton Macoute means Uncle Gunnysack in Haiti Creole. It is the local version of the Bogeyman, the creature with which parents would scare their unruly children in so many cultures around the world. The Spanish El Coco, the Italian Babao, or the German Butzemann. But what remained just a spooky idea anywhere else became very much alive in Haiti. Uncle Gunnysack is a gaunt old man, standing 2 stories tall and wielding a giant burlap sack over his shoulder. This sack he fills with disobedient children he gathers at night. Back in his lair, Tonton Macoute will chop the children into pieces and have them as breakfast snacks. Now, I'm going to set out a bit from dear old Uncle Gunnysack and ramble a bit about more context and deeper background. But bear with me, he's going to come back near the end and wrap it all up for us. Tonton Macoute is part of Haitian Vodou. It is a frame of religion and folklore which combines pagan African beliefs with Christianity. Naturally, these religions were formed in areas where African slaves lived under Christian colonial rule, such as Brazil, Haiti, and the south of the US. Unfortunately, voodoo is often misrepresented in Western culture and art as black magic or devil worship, like this post, warning good Christians from dabbling with the dark arts, a trend which the Catholic Church started. In Haiti, under the French Catholic rule, voodoo was a prosecuted religion. King Louis XIV, in his Code Noir, that defined French policy regarding slavery in its colonies, forbade voodoo and forced all slaves to convert to Catholicism. As often happens in such persecutions, that caused a reaction, which turned voodoo into one of the main drivers of Haitian revolution against the French. Local leaders of the rebellion were mostly voodoo priests, and they have also used it in rather morbid ways for their own ends. Perhaps the most famous of them is voodoo priest and guerrilla leader Macandal. Believed to be an immortal by his flock, it was told that men saw honor in bending the knee to him, and women have competed the honor to share his bed. Macandal was known for a tactic of poisoning the water sources of European settlements and then butchering the population when they were in anguish of death. He did not only terrorize the French occupiers, but also members of his own community, who showed disobedience or neutrality in participating in his rebellion. Unable to drive the French from Haiti, he was captured and burned in 1758. Not only did this persecution of voodoo not stop when the French left Haiti in 1804, but it even intensified. More than 100 years after Macandal's execution, another horrifying execution was burnt in Haiti's history forever. It is commonly referred to as the trial which gave voodoo a bad name. 8 voodoo priests, 4 Hungans and 4 Mambos, were convicted and shot to death by a firing squad for the abduction, murder, and cannibalism of a 12-year-old girl. The firing squad was very badly trained, which turned the spectacle into complete terror. The soldiers fired with such inaccuracy that only 6 fell wounded on the first discharge. It took these untrained men half an hour to complete their work. The horror at the prisoners' crimes was almost turned into pity at witnessing their unnecessary sufferings. They were seen beckoning to the soldiers to approach, and one woman held the muzzle of a musket to her bosom and called on the men to fire. That execution was the peak of the attempts of the Haiti local elite at the Catholic Church to uproot voodoo. Both saw voodoo as a decadent and primitive religion that should not have existed in their intellectual province of France. Yet somewhat in the 20th century, this relationship between Haitian voodoo and politicians shifted, and they turned from rivals into allies. It made those leaders more popular and well known in their communities, but also gave them an aura of the supernatural. The interest was mutual, since voodoo priests who had more political prestige enjoyed more followers. But there was one politician who did greater manipulation to voodoo for political ends than anyone else. It was François Papadoc Duvalier, who was Haiti's dictator between 1957 and 1971. If before Duvalier, voodoo and politics were related, in his era they were combined. Duvalier has declared himself the spiritual leader of the nation and the Gunnysack, the high priest of Vodou. He would often appear in public wearing a dark suit and a top hat and smoking a cigar, a tribute related to Baron Samedi, the Vodou Loa of death. He created a network of Vodou temples, led by local government-paid priests. Practically all of the country's religious leaders were hired by the government, and the priests kept their side of the deal as well. They've interpreted the words of the Loa as praises for the regime, used the national flag in ceremonies, and were often seen holding a gun during rituals. These priests were the regime's eyes, ears, and fists. The tremendous influence they had among their communities made them some of the most important leaders of Haiti's secret police force, the Tonton Macoute. And just like the two-story tall old man from fairy tale, the Tonton Macoute would snatch disobedient people who were never to be seen again. The Tonton Macoute used extreme violence and psychological warfare to terrorize the population of Haiti. A CIA report from 1968 defines them as the most feared group in Haiti and the major factor in Duvalier's ability to retain power. The group has outnumbered and effectively held more power than the Haitian military. The Macoutes would stone, burn, torture, and rape anyone who seemed to pose a potential threat for the regime. Bodies would be hung at display, and relatives who tried to bring them to proper burial would risk in facing the exact same fate. The estimated number of Haitians murdered by the Tonton Macoute is between 30,000 and 50,000 people. Vodou was a substantial part in the Tonton Macoute's tactics. While the president was Lord of Death and local leaders were priests, the ordinary goons were zombies or demons. Their uniforms and weapons were designed according to Vodou symbolism, and legends were told about their ability to zombify people and perform all sorts of dark magic. One of the leaders of the Tonton Macoute, Cambron, was called Vampire of the Caribbean, a name he got after forcefully extorting plasma from locals for sale. Cambron shipped 5 tons of plasma per month to US labs. He would also sell cadavers to medical schools after buying them from Haitian hospitals and funeral homes for $3 apiece. The ruthless use Duvalier did with Haiti's folklore and religion for his political purposes was one of the main factors that allowed his tyrannical regime to stay in power for so long. And although the Tonton Macoute is no longer in existence today, its spirit still lives in Haitian politics, in which violence and corruption are still very high. Thank you so much for listening, guys. I hope you found this video interesting. Now, if you want to find out more about relationships between culture, horror, and politics, try to check out my video about the Macoute, the soulless slave from Central Asia. I put a link up there. Thank you very much, and see you next time.